In this presentation, we will analyze Dylan's situation by identifying his problems and applied appropriate strategies to address his problems. Here is Dylan's story.
Dylan is a student in year 11 who excelled at basketball, drama, and mathematics in his early years in high school. Dylan's parents have ambitions for him to receive a scholarship to attend a prestigious university in the United States. To have a chance to receive a scholarship, Dylan must excel at both academics and sports. Because many of his peers are now physically taller and stronger than him, he's no longer been selected for representative basketball teams. This led him disassociate with his peers. Dylan now tends to be withdrawn and engaging in high-risk behaviors such as smoking, drinking, and stealing. Dylan now performing poorly in many of his school subjects except drama.
According to Dylan's story, he is physically, socially, and mentally affected by his situation portrays that his adolescence development issues embedded in physical, social, brain, and cognitive. As we mentioned in Dylan's story, he is a late maturing teenage boy. Comparing to his age-related peers, according to Key 2014, late maturing boys are highly engaged in problems compared with boys that mature on time. This means that Dylan is at the stage of developing positive peaks such as memory, immune system resistance to disease, and negative peaks such as crime, accidents, drug and alcohol abuse, and suicide. Despite Dylan is an intelligent student, his transition from positive peaks to negative peak foreshadows Gee's theory by which adolescence development is a period of risk-taking paradox, whereby Dylan's behavior is influenced by peer affiliation. The adolescence development issues that associate with Dylan's physical development are negative body image, low self-esteem, withdrawals, and isolate from learning activities with rebellious attitude. According to this, Dylan is potentially a victim of bullying and he begins to alienate himself from his peers, families, community, educators, and himself, as his physical appearance is branded as weird. Therefore, Dylan is likely to create false consciousness of his body image and involve in deviant behaviors such as alcohol and substance abuse. The bullying of his physical appearance leads to high risk of developing low self-esteem. This feeling of low self-esteem allows Dylan to engage in negative correlations, which is performing delinquency and get lower grades in his schools. In addition, Dylan is now engaging in deviant behaviors such as smoking, drinking, and stealing. Now, let's explore some of the social development interventions. Dylan, who needs peer, family, and community connections, which discriminated by his negative body image. This leads to his feeling of alienation from his peers, community, family, educators, and himself. BU highlights the importance of social relationships. It stated that the peer relationship and the family relationship played an important role in shaping the adolescent's development. In addition, it is also stated that the peer relationship is basically the establishment of good peer relationships. It is fundamental to adolescent well-being. This website stated that peer social support protects adolescents' mental health and buffering young people from feeling devalued. Now we are focusing on the family impacts. Cargrick and Robinson 2018 highlights the baby group metaphor, which means that family bonding is very important in adolescent development. However, the belief of breaking free from their family can lead to withdrawing from school life. Dylan, who is also influenced by passive and active genotype environments, thus maintain his performance both in academic and sports. However, he was disqualified from the basketball team due to his physical condition rather than the skill he displays in the game. The former selection procedure overlooked the negative impact it creates for Dylan's well-being. Dylan is a victim of the school policy and the school curriculum. Moreover, BU is critical of family relationships by stating that strong relationships with family allow young people to explore their identity safely and develops skills for adulthood. Similarly, high level of family involvement in adolescent education and extracurricular activity is predictive of good outcomes. Dylan's disqualification from the school team indicates lack of power over the game which he deserved to play. This creates a poor relationship between Dylan and his educator. However, BU highlights that strong relationships with educators promote positive development and well-being by providing a safe and supportive environment at school. Educators can help young people to develop resilience, provides the students with ability to manage change. Therefore, resilient young people are more able to adapt to the transitions that occur during the adolescence. The practice of discriminating and bullying in a diverse socially contribute to Dylan's isolation from his peers, community, family, and educators. According to Vygotsky's social cultural theory, highlights that cognitive development is inherently both social and cultural process. It is social because children learn through interactions with others and require assistance from others in order to learn what they learn. Dylan's decision in taking high-risk behaviors reflects what has been described as affective overdrive. This affective overdrive is a term called development incongruence in the neurobiological system that underpin adolescents' decision-making. In addition, Dylan's decision in high-risk taking behavior reflects the researchers' findings that during adolescence, human brain undergoes dramatic structural changes. Such adolescents display major rational imbalances between the social-emotional systems and the cognitive control systems. Dylan's decision to withdraw and engage in high-risk behavior highlights that he uses part of the brain called amygdala rather than the prefrontal cortex. According to Furman, Noll, and Belkemore, 2015 states that the highlighted risk-taking and impulsivity has been partially attributed to the slow development of the brain regions necessary for cognitive control. Similarly, the BU further simplified the slow development of the brain regions by explaining the functions of those two parts of the brain, the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex. BU outlined that the amygdala is a well-developed part of the brain in adolescence and is often associated with emotions, impulses, aggression, and instinctive behaviors. The prefrontal cortex is responsible for one's ability to plan and think about the consequences of actions, solve problems, and control impulses. However, this part of the brain does not fully develop until a person is in their mid-20s. Therefore, comparing Dylan's age and decision-making portrays that Dylan is relying on amygdala stereotypes by which he makes decisions and solves problems, particularly in emotionally charged situations. Regarding Dylan's issues, he might overcome his emotions of not being selected for basketball team if he was given the freedom to select what is best for him, rather than doing something that is demanded of him by community and family. Cognitive control system involves ability to control, regulate, and control thoughts, action, and behavior. In a social-emotional network or limbic system, Dylan's intersects between emotional and cognitive control system involve ability to coordinate, regulate, and control thoughts, action, and behavior. In a social-emotional network or limbic system, Dylan intersects between emotional and social growth. In many adolescents, like Dylan, the cognitive control system is dominated by the social-emotional network within his peer group, where situations or circumstances in a hot cognition context. As stated by Steinberg, beyond a certain point, informing the teenager of risks may be of limited value until their cognitive control system has fully matured. In such situation, Dylan does not think rationally as he is influenced by his emotions and his peers. Paget highlights the stage of formal operation as abstract thought and deductive reasoning. This is a period whereby an individual now can conceive all the possible ways that a problem might be solved. Dylan's schemas needs developing to improve his problem-solving skills, abstract thinking, and deductive reasoning. Therefore, adolescents experiencing development to issues such as Dylan need additional support and strategies to overcome hardship of risk-taking behaviors.
In a diverse society, GRIPT is an essence method that could be used in addressing Dylan's issue. This method provides justification for other elements of Dylan's mental health problem of risk-taking behavior. Therefore, this method provides teachers with confidence and consciousness on how to respond to Dylan's issue accordingly. The GRIPT method simply means G stands for gather information, R stands for respond to students, I stands for involve, P stands for promote social emotional learning programs, E stands for educate, and D stands for develop policy. G is for information gathering, and this is done by interviewing the most associated people, whereby in Dylan's situation there should be a family interview. This is a verbal dialogue between parents and teachers, whereby a teacher talks with the student's parent and explains concerns issued over the child's behavior in the school. The parent's response could be of great help for the teacher to provide pedagogy that might help and stabilize the adolescent's development behaviors. Peer interview is when the teacher seeks further information by interviewing Dylan's peer group. The information taken from the peer social group is important in observing the changes occurring during the adolescent's development period. Therefore, the teacher might find helpful approaches to address the adolescent's development issues. Personal interview is when the teacher and the student relationship is very sensitive in the way they communicate. The response of the student to the teacher's question depend on the kind of relationship they have for each other. However, the advantages and the disadvantages associated with this approach are: advantages: interviewees are Dylan's close friends and which they might attempt to help. The information they provide are true and accurate. They have broader knowledge of Dylan's background. Disadvantages are: the interview process is time-consuming. Information provided is sometimes biased and untrue depending on the type of question asked of the interviewees by the teacher. R stands for respond. This is an approach by which a teacher talks and listens to the young person. A teacher can show empathy but should avoid taking on counselor's role. Listening skill is very important in this approach, whereby a teacher can listen to the student's voice and respond professionally to the situation. However, Kids Helpline website is another possible approach outside the classroom. It is a kids helpline where students call to seek advice from professionals. I stands for involve extra training for Dylan to see his potential. This involves specialized trainers based on Dylan's needs, which are fitness training and required skills in basketball training. However, the advantage of this approach is Dylan will likely to develop advanced skills, while the disadvantage portrays that this method requires more money and time is consuming. Specifically, the aim of this approach is to break the barriers between the peers, family, and community. P stands for promote a social emotion learning programs. The school advocates positive and supportive environment through promotion of social emotion learning programs. According to Silverstone, simple cognitive behavioral intervention from parents, teachers, and peers contribution is very important in helping a child with low esteem behavior. The advantage of this approach is that it provides high efficiency to solve the problem from its origin. However, the disadvantages are the professional training required for the teachers and parents is very expensive and it is time consuming. E stands for educate. E approaches when the teacher uses some famous late maturated celebrities as an example to build the morale of the adolescent. In addition, this approach is like using a resilient donut to help students build resilience. For example, guest speakers of mental health department to discuss mental health problems and mental illness and how to develop personal coping strategies. Implementing strategies in schools will allow Dylan to adapt to the problems-focused coping strategies that promote resilience and will enable him to face his problems and take initiatives to solve them. However, teachers can use information from Reach Out website to educate themselves on how to approach Dylan's mental health issues. Teacher can educate Dylan's parents by introducing Reach Out website. This online website is free and accessible for the public, and it contains essential information that is helpful for adolescents' development and well-being. The advantages of this approach are visual and perceptual, institution, and it's easy to understand. The disadvantages are embedded in a need to buy workbooks and cards that contains information to help Dylan build resilience. Another negative aspect of that is Dylan needs special classes, which means extra workload for Dylan. On the other hand, students sometimes ignore information, particularly if they think that the teacher is preaching. This stands for developing policies. The approach is creating a new policy or review the old policy to make changes, basically to meet the needs of both the teachers and the students. The changes of the policies in this approach might meet the need of a student who suffers from low SES issues. Therefore, a low SES student with poor nutrition status requires a special project to provide free food. The advantages of this approach highlights the improvement of the nutrition status, and the students can focus on study instead of feeling hungry. The disadvantages associate students' feelings uncomfortable and may lead to potential alienation from peers. This approach is demanding and requires the approval from the school principal.
Hello, I'm Hongyu. From this assessment, I've developed many useful skills such as how to use video scribe and Protones to make animation and how to record and edit videos. All of this will be useful in my future teaching career. As for the theoretical research and practice in our lesson, it makes me realize that as a teacher, we can't only educate students but also support them physically and mentally. From the theoretical studies, we all know that growth is a spiral with the rhythm of moving forward and backwards. Because as a teacher, we are thinking about their happiness and safety. Therefore, the biological cognitive function we covered in this unit is quite useful for understanding teachers' behaviors. My key learning areas of teaching are biology, chemistry, and mathematics. In this case, I will talk about mathematics as an example. I must firstly understand the cognitive behavior and foundations of my students. Teenagers of each age have different physical and psychological reactions that plays an important role in the socialization of teenagers in the process of development. Acceptance of identity is an important psychological process of socialization of teenagers. The lack of this linkage between peers, teachers, and families will have negative effects on student development. Secondly, I will give students opportunity to express their own views, and I will support their views to increase their self-confidence that will ignite their passion on math. Finally, I will list the points of knowledge to be learned on the blackboard and create a mind map to guide them to think, and then let them think
and use a variety of thinking strategies to carry on the problems. In addition, I will communicate with my students in areas other than math to increase their self-confidence to help them improve their academic performances. In conclusion, if we want to be an excellent teacher, we should not only educate them, but also combine theory and practice together. We also need to pay more attention on their physical and mental development. Thank you.
I have learned from this unit a number of aspects of adolescent development, including social and cognitive foundations, as well as areas such as risk-taking paradox in different stages of adolescence development, and specifically areas that can cause decision-making in developing such actions in teenagers. I think understanding the positive correlation and the negative correlation in relation to the classroom context is important for interpreting students' behavior and the possibility to differentiate any possible issues that can arise from youth. Another useful component that I have learned from this unit is cognitive learning, particularly with respect to my KLA of English. This is an area of concern as an English teacher, basically the concepts of extraneous load and how to undertake other ways of this concept. I have gained confidence that I am useful for instances where I am teaching students the elements of effective writing and incorporating this knowledge with the practical component of an English lesson. As helping my students to get to the platform of confidence with their writing skills will demand me to provide them with as many practices to do so within the classroom as possible. As have been mentioned in this unit, that practice makes perfect. By doing this, I would increase my capacity as a future English teacher in external form, as such as providing extra writing practice lessons before and after school. Finally, I would conclude by saying that this lesson taught me how to work collaboratively with students, parents, and teachers as a whole in order to create a harmonious learning environment.
Studying adolescent development and teaching provided me knowledge and insight into adolescence world. Adolescence is a period between 12 and 18 years old, and it happens at the same time with puberty. During the period, adolescents develop physically, cognitively, and socially. Risk-taking increases in adolescence. Hot and cold cognition theory explains why teenagers have tendency to take more risk. Adolescents take more risks when they are around their peers because they want to fit in their environment and they want to be accepted by their friends. My key learning area is history. It is a theoretical subject and needs to be explained interestingly. Therefore, I will avoid redundant and split materials. I will minimize extraneous workload, and I also will do group works because Vygotsky claims that group work can provide a context for peer tutoring in the zone of proximal development. I will also consider advanced learners like Dylan. Advanced students can develop advanced learners effect and can get easily bored and disengaged. Therefore, I should consider different levels of the students and prepare tasks according to their level. The most important thing I have learned in this class is that good teachers look after their students' mental and physical well-being as much as their academic success. They provide advice and recommendation for students with the cooperation of their parents and school counselors. When I have discussion with my students about their issues, I will talk about confidentiality so they know their secret is safe with me, and I will not share it with anybody else without their permission unless if there's a possibility of danger for themselves or other people. I will try to build resilience and well-being for my students. Thank you.